Thanks for joining us. I'm Paul Degnan with Casella, and on behalf of Casella and everybody here, I welcome you to the Auburn MRF and Auburn Transfer Station. I'm also going to introduce Lisa McMenemy. So later on, we're going to be going out for a tour, and Lisa's going to lead one group, and I'll have the other one. So you'll probably be lucky if you're in Lisa's group. I welcomed you to the Auburn MRF and the Auburn Transfer, so that's what we do here. MRF is Material Recovery Facility. That's kind of the big dog here that everybody comes to see. It's what we focus a lot of our energies on. We process about 320 tons a day of single stream recycling. We can take dual stream. We take dual stream from different communities. We take source separated materials from different communities. Some can go directly to the baler. Things like commingle plastics and containers need to still go through the system and be sorted. Okay, so actually this facility was built by the old BFI, who's changed names a number of times, built in 1996. And then was forced to sell it, and Casella, also known as FCR at the time, purchased that. And in 2005, switched over to processing single stream. So that was kind of the last big retrofit to handling single stream. This is the first single stream plant in Massachusetts, and I think maybe the second in New England. So I said that we do 320 tons a day, so we do that about 20 tons an hour with 2 shifts. So the guys start at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we tend to work straight through till about midnight. Sometimes we do some maintenance in the middle part of the day, or we do maintenance on Saturday. We also have the Auburn Transfer Station, where you're permitted for 650 tons a day of MSW and C&D. And right now we're doing about 400 tons a day. Okay, so we do our own trucks that bring material. We do municipalities and third-party customers that come here. Casella as a whole, mostly in the Northeast, publicly traded company, has a number of landfills, has 6 recycling centers, mainly focused on single stream recycling. We have other smaller source separated recycling centers. Number of hauling divisions, very heavy in organics, handling paper sludges, wastewater treatment sludges, and source separated organics. And then we have a resource solutions region, which we actually go in and we do resource management contracts with large industrial customers in colleges, where we go in and completely manage their waste streams. Okay? Yeah. So Casella is more than just what you see locally. There's actually a lot more there.
How many items can you sort optically?
So actually, optical sorting is coming a long way, but once you have one optical sorter, you can really only program it for a limited amount of materials. And again, how it's configured, so there's a couple of different answers to your question. So how it's configured and how many conveyors and bins it can blow the material to. So because that's how optical sorting works, for the most part, is that it reads what the material is and then uses a puff of air to blow it over a gap to get that separation. So really, you can program an optical sorter for almost any type of material. I do know that there's some sorters that you can program to sort multiple items, different. So it could do 3 or 4 different plastics, and then you do another sort down the road. So I think Rhode Island actually might do that. That's a great tour, by the way. The Rhode Island Resource Recovery, owned by the state of Rhode Island. So, okay. Other questions?
When it comes to the raw materials, like the plastics and the paper, do you ever store it on site and like wait for the market to go up, or like how does that work when it comes to selling?
Yeah, so most people that I know, and I've been in this industry my whole life, unless it's a very high value commodity, it's like playing the market, and it really doesn't make sense to sit on it and to try to play that market. You know, for us, we might have a discussion on aluminum. We make basically 1 load of aluminum per month, sometimes a load and a half. And sometimes we'll say, hey, we want to get that aluminum out now because we know the market's dropping, or let's hold it till next month. That's about the extent of what we do. I know some of the guys that do higher value metals, metals recyclers, they might do that a little bit more because that swing can be significant. For us, you're going to see that one of our biggest issues is storage space. And so, and really it kind of speaks to, it's two-pronged. It speaks to our storage space, but it also speaks to how we work with our customers and really what our business model is. And what we are is we're always working on that buffer. And so what we try to do is that if the market goes down, our relationship with our customers and how they're paid or charged changes with the market. And so as long as we have that buffer, we're protected. So, okay. I passed out a sheet that is from the Recycling Partnership. They actually reached out to all the MRFs that I think that they deal with, and we're part of, or we're invested in working with the Recycling Partnership. And they basically sent out a questionnaire, and we kind of went through it 3 or 4 times, went through it here, went through it with other MRFs that are owned by Casella. And each MRF is a little bit different. And when you work with the Recycling Partnership, and I know New Bedford is, they want you to reach out to the MRF that your material goes to and say, okay, what can you take? What do you want? And there's some gray area items. There's things that we don't want in the stream, but if it's going by us on the belt, we're going to sort out and try to recycle it. We don't want pots and pans, right? But it's a piece of metal. The market for metal usually stays pretty decent, so we'll throw that frying pan to the side, and we'll send it out to the scrap dealers. Okay. So what we've tried to do there is to understand what we accept, what we don't accept, what causes significant problems for us and what doesn't. And Kathy, I'm not sure if you know about this, but I just got an email this morning. The Recycling Partnership is now starting to look at, of the things that we don't want, what's the cost associated with those things? And I just got it today, and now this is going to generate a lot of discussion around what's the cost of plastic bags in the waste stream? What's the cost of a brake drum in the waste stream? Both from a health and safety issue, downtime issue, mechanical problems, whatever it might be. If you go to the last page on that, it talks about prohibitive items, things that we really don't want in there. It wanted us to rank the top 5. I threw out the top 9. But you'll see that the top 4, I believe, are all kind of health and safety issues. And we do a safety call every Tuesday morning, the entire eastern region of Casella, and we go through any accidents and injuries that we might have had. And one of the common accidents and injuries that we have in the MRF world is needle sticks. There's and certain areas, we have a MRF in Maine that has a tremendous drug problem in that area. And they have needles, hypodermic needles, on the line all the time. It's a real shame, but we're starting to see more and more of it here as well. So, whatever we can do, and as a matter of fact, we sponsor a local needle pickup at the local CVS because we're trying to encourage the proper handling of these things. But it's important. I know you folks all get it. That's why you're here today. But when something goes in the barrel, it doesn't disappear. There's people that are handling it, both on the recycling side and the waste side. So, okay. All right, heard enough of me talking. Why don't we split up and we'll go for a tour. So this is actually the end of the line for our glass. So this glass right here, we work with Strategic Materials. who also is the old container recycling down in Franklin. They have a pre-processing plant in Johnston, Rhode Island. So this product here, this pile, will go down to Johnston. They'll pre-process it by taking out even more contaminants, and then they'll send it up to Franklin, where it'll get color sorted and mostly delivered to the glass bottle manufacturer right there in Franklin to get made back into glass bottles. If you look at this pile, you'll see what jumps out is the caps. It's probably the #1 contaminant that comes out of this mix. And but it's a little bit more prevalent what it looks like than what it is, because the way the material cascades or once it hits the pile is that the light product tends to spill down the outside and the heavier materials inside. So of this pile, usually about 80% of this glass is good quality glass that will get recycled back into bottles. So if I just kind of kick it around a little bit, you see, it's a lot more of that glass there than what first meets the eye. So how this glass got to this point was it went into the initial screen, material gets broken, comes out on a conveyor belt, passes over another screen just to try to sort out any of the larger material where some of the pill bottles might come out. And then we'll run underneath a magnet through an air system, where as the material falls, there's a vacuum that's pulling up all of the light material. So shredded paper, I think I heard somebody ask about that earlier. When shredded paper just goes into the mix loose, then shredded paper comes out and ends up as trash, because it just gets vacuumed away from the glass, because that's where it ends up. We'll stop here for a second. I know we're all focused on recycling, and recycling's great. Well, we do handle MSW here. We handle C&D here. Part of being a permitted transfer station in the state of Massachusetts is you have to watch your wastebands. We have wasteban inspectors. Again, giving that constant feedback to the generators if they're putting in things that they shouldn't. Some of it's recyclable material like cardboard, paper, bottles and cans. We have to watch for that. Plus we watch for zero tolerance items like refrigerators, air conditioners, televisions, tires. And it's amazing how many of those things we still see on a regular basis. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So that's what's happening here in door 4, 5, and 6. And basically how this works is that the material gets dumped on the floor, inspected, pushed up in the pile, and then it gets loaded into the big transfer trailers. And again, in Massachusetts, there's a shrinking disposal capacity, so we have to go further and further away with our material. We do send some material to the Southbridge landfill, but they've actually cut their inbound product to half. So we send it as far north as Bangor, Maine, Bethlehem, New Hampshire, and we're even sending some baled material out to Ohio right now. So doors 1, 2, and 3. So this side of the building is all dedicated towards recycling. So all the trucks that bring that in, trailers from ABC that collect it at their transfer station will come up here, will get dumped on the floor. We talked a little bit about audits and inspections. This is where that would happen. Okay, we would take a loader bucket, take a scoop of the material, set it aside, and we would audit that material. Actually go through and sort out. We do different types of audits. We do residue-only audits where we just pull out the trash to look at how much trash is in there. But we'll actually do a complete audit, which is all the individual materials. Pull it aside, weigh each one of them, and basically come up with a percentage of how much PET was in that load or whatever. So what Mike and the loader is doing here is that material's already been piled, it's on the tip floor. This is where our processing system starts. So we have a floor conveyor that goes to an incline conveyor, and this material is going up and into the system. So this is really kind of the start of the whole thing. We were on the tip floor, we saw the material get put on the initial incline belt. This is that incline belt here. So again, this is really kind of the start of the system. The very first station that it goes to is our pre-sort station. So the 4 sorters that you can see behind me, 2 on each side, this is pre-sort. So the 4 sorters here are really focused on material that we don't want going into the system. That might cause some of those mechanical failures. So plastic bags, wood, large pieces of metal, things like that that'll go into the system, that'll bind up the system, cause mechanical failures, safety failures. Those are some of the things that these folks are looking for. They're kind of the first guard of the system. The other thing that they'll look for is that those rigid plastics, the large rigids, they'll also pull those out here. Because if they don't get them out, then they'll end up going into the cardboard. And you'll see that as we walk by. One of the things that these folks do is that shredded paper. We don't want shredded paper except if it's in paper bags. But if shredded paper comes up and they see it, they will take the shredded paper and just put it at their feet, so that when we shut down, they'll take those bags, they'll tear them open and try to blend it in with the paper. So again, as we go through, you're going to see a few different screens. Remember, it's trying to separate out the 2-dimensional from the 3-dimensional, and then it's all based upon size. And while we're here, I'll talk about size. As the material comes past pre-sort, you can see the cardboard screen beyond them. Cardboard's going over the top, smaller material goes down through the middle. The medium-sized material goes to the screens, but the smallest material, 3 inches or less, comes back to this small screen here. So it came out the bottom, came back on a conveyor to this screen. This screen cuts it by another ½ inch. Any larger material will spill out and go back into the system. Everything else spills out through the bottom, passes underneath, and goes over to our air system. So our air system is basically a big vacuum cleaner that's sorting out all of the light shredded paper, light plastic, and depositing it into a pile, which is trash at that point. It passes under a magnet to pull out the caps and the lids, and then goes out to that trommel screen that we talked about earlier. But this is a good place to stand because behind you is that cardboard screen. So the cardboard goes off the end and just ends up down on the floor. The middle fraction comes out on this conveyor belt. So this should all be mostly newspaper, magazines, junk mail, but also containers. Containers are here as well, except for glass. There shouldn't be any glass here. Okay? Then it passes over one news screen here, really focused on news and magazines because of the speed and the sizing. Then a roll screen there, that next incline. So the way these things work is it basically is a bunch of spinning discs on an incline. So every time you see an incline screen, the 2-dimensional material will ride up and over the screen while the 3-dimensional will spill back down. So that's why you'll see that at an angle, that screen's at an angle, and this screen's at an angle. And depending upon the type of material, the temperature, how wet the material is, will actually adjust the speed and the angle on a regular basis. So that's all designed to pull out the paper material from the containers. So after we separate out all the paper, the material goes up to that final pass over there where you see an overhead magnet belt. That's that spinning belt with the fins way up top there. That's pulling out all of the steel cans, any ferrous metals, anything that's magnetic at that point. So lids, caps, and metal cans, soup cans and things. All of the plastic containers that come up will pass underneath the magnet. That's the finned belt that you see, pulling out all the magnetic material, all the soup cans and things like that. Then the containers continue to come down the line. The first person is pulling out milk jugs, colored plastic, some of the larger rigids. They continue down, more of the detergent bottles, any paper that might still be left on the line, they're going to pull down. They drop it down the chute to go back into the paper line. Down this side, This woman's focused a little bit more on some of the larger PET bottles, or a PET bottle that still has liquid in it won't work in the optical sorter. The liquid will refract to the optics, or the air will have a hard time blowing the heavy bottle up through the system. So she'll see that and she'll just toss the bottle filled with liquid into the bin. This is the finished product side of the business. Right, so everything that gets cycled to the baler, as the material comes down the line to the baler, we have a couple of guys that are doing a final quality control there. Then the material goes into the baler and we make these bales. We still end up with a little bit of plastic and things that might end up here. We actually will go through and have 2 more people do quality control, trimming up the bales and things. So everything is stored in its respective rows. All of the different materials. So what's really cool to think about is that huge pile that was in the beginning of everything all mixed together. And then as it goes through the system, everything gets separated and sorted, and then everything gets baled, stored, and then over here, the loading docks stay pretty busy from basically 4 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, just loading out trailers. Goes overseas, all of our newspaper and mixed paper goes overseas.
Is it from 4 a.m. to 6 at night?
Yeah.
Which countries particularly?
Mainly China. So China's a huge consumer of newspaper and cardboard. Most of our newspaper goes to China.
And cardboard?
Some of our cardboard goes, but most of our cardboard stays domestic. So there's still a lot of mills in the U.S. that are generating cardboard and using recycled product to make corrugated, mostly the medium, which is the wavy part of a corrugated box. So they use a lot of cardboard for that. And someone mentioned Amazon earlier, and so there's more and more cardboard being used in the U.S. So there's a lot of mills, even some newspaper mills like the one in Fitchburg a few years ago switched from making newspaper and boxboard to making cardboard. So now they take cardboard and stop taking newspaper. So yeah, to summarize the tour, what we really looked at was how all of the inbound single stream and dual stream recycling comes into this plant, gets dumped on a tip floor, inspected for quality. Quality is very important, and try to minimize the contaminants. And then it gets run through the system. The system is designed to sort out all of the different fractions or components within the recycling stream. And it does a great job of doing that. And once it does that, it cycles it to the baler. But to do that is a lot of equipment, a lot of resources, a lot of energy, and a lot of people that go into running the plant every hour of the day. And but our final product is a bale of paper or a bale of plastic or metal, and all of that has a customer, a mill, and that's going to recycle that into a new steel can, a new cardboard box. So, you know, hope for the future is strong markets, strong economy that still will need to consume that material, and that the generator, that the homeowner understands how important it is to keep the recycling clean and those contaminants out to keep the equipment running smoothly and keep the employees safe.